It's been a minute since season 3 of Invincible wrapped up, and to say it ended with a bang is an understatement. Personally, I feel like with the last 2 episodes and especially the Conquest fight, the show hits certain familiar notes reminiscent of the season 1 finale. See, so far the whole narrative has been executed in exceptional fashion, and though I had my fair share of issues watching season 3, by the end of the last episode things actually clicked, and I couldn't help but feel that I finally understood what the writers were cooking. Yeah, I'll admit that it took me until the end to really understand Mark's character arc this season, and for it all to really feel worth it. And look, when I say the finale makes the whole season worth it, I'm specifically referring to the fact that, well, Mark gets his ass whooped a lot. I mean, a lot. Which is nothing new, of course. It's what he's been doing since the first season. And hey, I love it. I'm all for seeing characters we love dragged through the mud, and I've genuinely enjoyed how that has brought about Mark's evolution in the story. This is that type of universe after all. But truth is, when you're a superhero and you've been mostly taking L's and making bad decision after bad decision for most of the season, a viewer's tolerance is definitely tested. But I think seeing a hero hit his head against the wall over and over again until he eventually just breaks through it might embody what makes this story truly one of a kind. And so after everything we've seen from Mark, what exactly makes the fight against Conquest so great? Well, for starters, we don't have to look much further than the aftermath of the Invincible War, which to me is nothing short of the perfect setup for what takes place next. With back-to-back international calamities, Mark has no chance to gather himself before he hits his lowest point yet, because seeing what a bunch of evil Marks would do in just 3 days only begs the question, how much worse could an actual invasion of Viltrumites be? When it seems that not only does Mark pale in comparison to the upper echelon of Viltrumites, but we don't really even see him kill any of his own variants single-handedly, if at all. And then he decided to stay on the sidelines after Eve gets hurt on the second day of the attack. So the fact is, he instills absolutely zero confidence that he can handle something of even this scale, not to say worse. And yet, the story is only better because of it. It's no secret that the Invincible War serves as a neat reflection of Mark's inner turmoil, but how he handles it all is just as emblematic of his character flaws and challenges to be the hero he wants to be. So Conquest pulling up right as the weight begins to settle for Mark is just impeccable writing. I'll explain why. I've previously talked a bit about how timing and stakes are major ingredients in the recipe for a lot of stories' most impactful moments. And the arrival of Conquest executes that idea on the highest level, because as he descends and his looming shadow is cast over Mark, there's a sense of absolute terror that takes center stage. A recurring theme of the story that I discussed in my previous video was Mark's internal struggle of constantly holding back and the reasoning behind it. So after Angstrom manages to escape a second time, Mark has no other option but to look in the mirror. And when Conquest arrives, Mark has no time to gather his thoughts, no time to pull himself together, only a desire to, like he says, hit something really hard. Because we've never really seen Mark quite like this, it's easy to get carried away and think he's finally gonna let loose and go all out from the jump. The showdown begins with their punches cancelling out and the wave of the impact immediately resulting in collateral damage, setting the tone for the rest of the fight. Early on, you could be led to believe that this is it. After being in a slump all season, Mark might just prove that he's a true heavy hitter and can hang with even the strongest of Viltrumites, cause he kinda goes off for a minute. However, it doesn't take long to find out that Conquest is merely warming up, playing with his food while he's at it, and that Mark is in for a real rough awakening. What makes the climactic fight so good rests on the dialogue just as much as the action and the fight itself, as Conquest is just dropping bar after bar the whole time, with each line further revealing to Mark how much of a psychopath he is as he then begins to beat him down. Conquest is clear about his intentions and expresses why he was the one sent to Earth. The idea that Mark's rejection of the Viltrumite Empire would piss them off so much that they sent their most unhinged warrior couldn't paint a clearer picture in regards to the gravity of Mark's actions. So if you thought the Invincible War was bad, what Conquest does to Mark on a psychological level is just horrifying, and I couldn't help but get PTSD flashbacks of Mark's fight against his father. But unlike with Omni-Man, there's obviously no emotional tie here. Conquest has absolutely no reason to stop at all. In fact, he willingly drags out the fight just to savor every second, and doesn't even give Invincible the slightest chance to surrender when he basically pleads for a timeout. And when you look at Conquest compared to not just Omni-Man but also Angstrom Levy, for him, it's not personal. He He has no real beef with Mark, like we've seen in previous season finales. This is just a maniac that finds no greater pleasure than feeling the warmth of his fists drenched in blood. We quickly understand that Conquest only really looks to destroy. He says himself that he enjoys it, the chaos, the destruction. He's having the time of his life. He's not there to spread the greatness of the Viltrum Empire, and unlike Mark, he wants a reason to go all out. It's why he wants Mark to resist and is willing to give him, and I quote, the right motivation. Fortunately for him, Oliver arrives just in time, and I love how you can see him really struggle to catch up to Invincible and Conquest, as the former just gets ragdolled and punched through multiple buildings. Things with Oliver, though, get real dark real quick. Because he knows the type of danger his little brother is in, Mark's attention completely shifts to convincing Oliver to leave, fearing for his life. Ultimately giving Conquest the chance to blindside him before he then decides to target Oliver, leading to one of the most disturbing scenes in the whole series. But before he goes at Oliver, Conquest questions Mark about his Viltrumite heart, asking where's his power and rage. He's essentially calling him out, and, well, he's right. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Mark's humanity is what holds him back here, because it's not. It's rather a lack of duality. He's been unable to accept the Viltrumite within him in fear that it'll make him less human, and in a fight to the death, Conquest can tell. It's a nice touch and a cool bit of foreshadowing how Mark responds to this with a headbutt, considering how the fight ends. Anyway, with Invincible blitzing the old Viltrumite right as he's literally about to tear Oliver in two, Conquest finally starts to get what he wants. I mean, sure, Mark locks in, but Conquest also takes things up a notch. And after Mark is able to get some good licks in, Conquest just goes back to whooping his ass, honestly. Before long, Eve pulls up, which, again, is really a nightmare for Mark as he prioritizes her life and safety. Conquest takes advantage of Mark being distracted and breaks his femur with a clean strike, temporarily putting him out of commission. And so Eve jumps in and in a short amount of time is able to get to work. Not really inflicting much damage, but at least stalling while Mark is agonizing in pain? Okay, so the episode really ingrains that feeling of frustration and desperation at this point, I feel like. Right, I don't know what it feels like to have your femur practically sliced in combat, so fair, I guess. But with what follows, Conquest really takes pushing the hero to the next level, as he gets tired of Eve's shenanigans and, well, let's just say he takes her out of the picture in a quite disrespectful manner, really. Eve dies in Mark's arms as Conquest licks her blood off of his. Conquest thanks Mark for giving him the opportunity to cut loose like he did, but losing Eve is what finally unleashes Mark. Losing the love of his life before his very eyes at the hands of a madman leads him to fight with a sense of reckless abandon, fueled by a primal rage we had just never seen from him. It's also when he drops what is probably the hardest line in the fight. What really works here though is that from here, Mark fights with everything and anything he's got, literally. And yet, as Conquest would say, getting mad does not make you stronger. That's not how it works. And though Mark is finally able to fight like a Viltrumite, it definitely costs him. Well, both of them, really, with that one clash absolutely obliterating the arms of both. In what is widely considered as the highlight of the fight, Conquest is then able to pin Mark down and decides to let him in on a little secret. The short monologue that follows is what truly elevates Conquest from a great villain to a flawless one. See, everything he says about feeling so lonely he could cry and not having a name, only a purpose, and so on, isn't for us to feel bad for him or anything of the sort, but rather grasp how deranged he really is, even when compared to his own. And that shot of his scarred eye with the ominous music playing conveys it all so perfectly. His isolation and lack of identity are a mere result of being molded through scars in countless battles and invasions. The more he does it, the more he's ostracized, and yet the better he gets and the more he's driven to do it again and again. Conquest opens up to Invincible, but only because he's convinced he's about to bury him. It's a beautiful display of arrogance stemming from repressed emotions and inner turmoil. I'd say for a minute, Conquest almost sounds human, which I think is ironic considering Mark's biggest struggle has been embracing his nature as a Viltrumite. And so when Conquest is done, he tells Mark, take it to the grave. Of course, we know Eve's failsafe kicks in and she shoots a beam that burns Conquest's skin right off, allowing Mark to finally end the fight once and for all. And so he does. Conquest didn't let up, breaking Mark's other hand, but Mark quickly seals the deal with his good old signature headbutt, which he spams. Maybe tried spamming that a little earlier in the fight, you know? Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to convey here really boils down to the idea that this fight is really all Conquest. The whole fight, the only reason he doesn't kill Mark is because he wanted to have his fun, putting him through the ringer. And that's not a dig at Invincible, quite the opposite. I think I, like most, measure villains by how much they really impact the hero. And in just one episode, with no previous history with Mark, Conquest is developed to do that at every level, and in opposite to Mark in almost every way. He's old and weathered, but wide and imposing, heartless, bloodthirsty, and most significantly, with a desire to just go all out at any given opportunity. And he wanted Mark to do the same. For most of this fight, Conquest is just slowly breaking Invincible just to give him a reason to fight with everything he's really got, using Mark to rip through innocents on the beach, almost tearing Oliver apart and damn near killing Eve by disfiguring her face and turning her into a donut. The right motivation, huh? Funny how that really comes full circle. The truth is, it really did take Eve dying for Mark to not hold back, with zero regard for himself or anything else. In the wake of his fight against Conquest, Mark finally understands that he has to be absolute. He just can't afford not to be. He wouldn't have even come close to defeating Conquest if it wasn't for Eve and Oliver stepping in. Mark knows what he fights for, but truth is, it seems it's only when those he wants to protect are already hurt that he's able to then muster every ounce of will within him, which makes sense, really, because for the past 2 seasons we've seen Mark desperately trying to prove, mainly to himself, that he's not like his father and the other Viltrumites. But when we last see him in his conversation with Oliver, it's clear something within Mark has changed. After Powerplex, Angstrom Levy, and now Conquest, it seems that he's finally able to embrace his nature, and the fact that in order to protect his family and his homeworld, Mark will have to fight like a Viltrumite, and in part, become what he once hated. That's the beauty of Conquest. I appreciate you staying till the end of the video. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Conquest, the finale, and Season 3 in general. And if you enjoyed the content, stick around. Like always, much love and take care. Peace.